I thought we might arrange a little entertainment for you before time for concluding our little business. My brothers? We waited for you, Neville, so you could see this. The end. The end of all you've done. You see, none of it was real. It was illusion. Your art, your science, it was all a nightmare. And now it's done. Finished.
Hello again. Essay here. Who was Jesse Unruh? Well, if you were living in the 20th century in California, you knew exactly who he was. You could call him basically a gadfly. Someone who always hung around the halls of power and influence in California politics. Even though the guy was originally from Kansas. But he made a name for himself primarily in the late 20th century, basically being a member of California Assembly, and later led the California State Treasury. But this guy, he had been around the block way too many times. Indeed, this fella, he first ended up in the California Assembly back in the 1960s. And he had worked to get John F. Kennedy elected president, as well as try to get his brother Robert in the White House too before that bullet found him. But not everybody in the Democratic Party liked this guy. Indeed, he had arguments repeatedly with Pat Brown, Jerry Brown's father, as well as LBJ. In fact, LBJ called him one of the most selfish men he had ever met. Makes you wonder why, huh? But anyway, this guy, like I said, he had been bouncing around like a damn ping pong ball all over Democratic politics, working for everyone from Richard Daley to Edward Kennedy, Eugene McCarthy, and he even tried to run for mayor of Los Angeles for a brief period too. But then the guy truly found, let's just say this, his sweet spot when he became the head of the California Treasury. Why? Because when he first got that position in the 1970s, he was supposedly quoted as saying, "Make no mistake about it, I really want this job." Makes you wonder why. Now, right now, you're probably saying, who cares about some 20th century politician? Hey, I'm getting to that part, okay? Just give me a chance. The reason why this guy Unruh wanted to become the state treasurer is because at that time, he felt that being the California state treasurer was the most politically powerful position in public finance, right below the U.S. Treasury. And you say, what? True. And wait for it, it gets better. by being the state treasurer, he had gained control of a huge amount of financial resources, and that in turn meant that he could pull the strings for political power. Indeed, why do you think his nickname was Big Daddy Unruh? Yeah, because one of the things he famously said was that money is the mother's milk of politics. And jump forward to the present day, that has not changed. Nope, it hasn't. Now, old Unruh, he's long dead and buried. But his thinking hasn't gone away. Nope, it has not at all. Now, right now, I'm going to show you a snippet of a video by Dr. Steve Turley, who is talking about something quite similar when it comes to politics. And it's not so much about institutional power, but the power that you can get when you hold the purse strings. Okay, are you ready? Here we go.
What you're seeing there, my friends, is the removal of the Black Lives Matter mural in DC. And I would argue to you that it is a symbol. It is symbolic of the larger dismantling of the whole of the Democratic Party. And I'm not even remotely exaggerating here. Take a look at this. There are calls now for Congress to investigate the now defunct ActBlue. Now, if you don't know, ActBlue is was the premier Democrat political action committee. According to reports, ActBlue has raised billions of dollars for the Democrats. Billions with a B. We're talking as of 2024. ActBlue raised a total of $13 billion for the Democrats. I mean, look at this headline. ActBlue rakes in nearly $50 million within 7 hours after Kamala Harris announced the launch of her presidential campaign. That's the kind of power we're talking about, the financial power. ActBlue was a fundraising powerhouse par excellence. We didn't have anything, Republicans had nothing even comparable to what the Democrats had in terms of fundraising apparatus. And now it's officially defunct. ActBlue has imploded. The New York Times, of all places, is being forced to report on this. ActBlue is, in their words, quote, in turmoil. It's experiencing mass resignations. 7 of their top executives have all left in the past 3 weeks. None of them will explain on record why they left. 2 unions representing ActBlue employees, they're all questioning the group's stability. They're calling the situation, quote, alarming. And these unions are even themselves calling on ActBlue to be investigated. The last remaining lawyer at ActBlue's general counsel's office, he's been locked out of his email and put on leave. And the reason why these growing voices want ActBlue investigated, the primary reason, is it looks like ActBlue has been nothing more ultimately than a taxpayer-funded money laundering operation. More and more observers are finding it strangely coincidental that the moment USAID funds dried up, the moment USAID funds were pulled from Democrat-controlled NGOs, all of a sudden, We saw the disappearance of small dollar donations to ActBlue. And then, of course, just a few weeks later, by February, 7 top ActBlue executives abruptly resign. Why? How was ActBlue implicated in all of this? What did these executives know? And when did they know it? You see, that's what people want to find out. Now, if you don't know, thanks to Doge, it's now being revealed that USAID, which itself is now defunded, was itself primarily a money laundering operation. It was a slush fund for all of these left wing special interests. In fact, if you follow Data Republican, she's part of Doge. She's helped uncover 7 major NGOs that were all funded to the tune of tens of millions of dollars each by USAID. So we're talking funds like NGOs like the National Endowment for Democracy, right? You've probably seen NED a lot in some of the headlines. The National Democrat Institute, even the Republicans got involved. The International Republican Institute. Establishment Republicans are no different than establishment Democrats. It's the Uniparty. And they were all part of this mass money laundering operation involving ultimately tens of billions of our tax dollars being funneled to these left-wing causes both here and abroad. For example, as I understand, Bill Kristol, the warmongering, ultra-Trump hating neocon Bill Kristol, he's president of an organization called Defending Democracy. Molly Hemingway of the Federalist, she published a piece back in 2018 that reported on how virtually all of the Russian collusion conspiracy quackery that the legacy media was peddling at the time came from Bill Kristol's organization, this supposed defender of democracy organization.
Okay, you saw that. Now, some of you who have been paying attention are probably already familiar with what's been going on with USAID. But of course, as you saw in Dr. Turley's video, apparently USAID was basically the the checkbook for ActBlue. And let's not pretend ActBlue, as you saw in Dr. Turley's video, that was not a small outfit. But what's so surprising is that how much of its resources came from the U.S. taxpayer, in a roundabout way, of course. And now that USAID is basically kaput, it seems like it's dragging down ActBlue along with it. And as you saw in Dr. Turley's video, it seems like a lot of people who really were relying on that mother's milk, now they're sitting there pulling their hairs out, both on top of their head and the other head, wondering what they're going to do. Now, right now, some of you saying, oh, well, too bad for them. But what you probably don't understand is that what was probably happening at ActBlue wasn't so much about people greasing the wheels with taxpayer funds. It's about the fact, the way they were doing it. In other words, something that even Meyer Lansky would probably blush with giddiness over it. Yeah, money laundering. In other words, a crime. Now you get it? And let's not pretend ActBlue wasn't just playing footsie with USAID. How many people remember BLM? I do. And you know what? BLM, it collected a lot of money. But they didn't collect it directly. They collected it from through ActBlue. I remember those stories that came out back when old Sleepy Joe's in the White House sucking on his ice cream cone. That multiple people, individuals, as well as organizations, were donating money to BLM, but they were wondering, why is it that BLM's financial transactions are going through ActBlue? Why indeed? Because, for example, anyone remembers Casino, that old Martin Scorsese film? Well, if you pay attention to that film, they spoke about how the Kansas City mob, or I should say the Midwest mob, was skimming money out of the coffers of the damn casino. Well, guess what? Just like in that crime drama, ActBlue was skimming money off the top from BLM. How much? We don't know yet. We may never know. Especially when you consider the fact that right now as we speak, because Jeremy from the Quartering mentioned not too long ago that somebody who used to work for USAID is trying to hide the evidence now. Yeah. How? The same way the Nixon White House was trying to hide the evidence of Watergate by shredding all the documents. Yeah. I was just shocked when I heard that too. But of course, unlike back in the bad old days of the 1970s, email didn't exist back then. Therefore, you had to go, or you had to, pass the word down by word of mouth. But some clown used to work at USAID stupidly put their intentions in the email and sent it to all their underlings inside the organization, saying that, yeah, we got to start shredding documents. And believe me, if you're going to commit a federal crime like shredding documents to hide evidence of a crime, don't put it in the email. Just saying. But still, this skullduggery happening in ActBlue, it's bigger than anyone realizes. Because as you saw in Dr. Steve Turley, a lot of people were getting money from ActBlue, as well by way of USAID. And all the while that was happening, people were just skimming money off the top, just like the old gangsters of old. I mean, are you surprised that so many people, bureaucrats that are connected to either ActBlue or USAID, are multimillionaires? Makes you wonder where that money came from, huh? Whereas my mom once told me, you can't be a virgin in a whorehouse. Or if you're familiar with the Bible, you can't find a saint in a city full of sinners. And anyway, how deep does this rabbit hole go? I don't know. And the fact that, as you saw in Dr. Turley's video, people are now trying to play a game of hide the football. We may never know how deep this rabbit hole goes when it comes to the financing that these various organizations have been using to basically wax their skis. But probably the most sinister thing about this whole damn deal is that this wasn't just an American thing. No. Apparently these organizations were operating overseas too. For example, you saw in Dr. Turley's video, George Soros, some of his NGOs were involved in this stuff. Now, of course, some of you are saying, oh, but George Soros, he's got his own money. True, true, true. But what would make you very, very smart is not so much being rich, but having other people finance your extracurricular activities. Now that shows brilliance. Yeah, don't believe me? Just ask Elon Musk. Yeah, the brother's got money, but yet he somehow managed to get NASA to finance a big chunk of SpaceX's operations. Smart. And therefore, you're not surprised that someone like George Soros, using both ActBlue as well as USAID to finance his operations all around the world. Smart. And, wait for it, those activities, like I said, been going around the world. Now, of course, some of you smart people say, yeah, but most of George Soros' operations have been shut down. Have they? Or are we just being told they were shut down? Indeed. Look what was happening just this recently in places like Slovakia and damn Serbia, where and next door over there in former Soviet Georgia, where you had these so-called spontaneous protests popping up against various local politicians who, for whatever reason, were going against the radical leftist narrative coming out of Brussels. You know, Ursula von der Leyen and her crowd. And yet, when you look at some of those protests, all those people were nice and clean-shaven, and they all had brand new, professionally printed protest signs. Makes you wonder who paid for that, huh? And let's not pretend. Everyone who remembers the Hamas protests are happening last year and are still happening now. Those students were taking over various college campuses from UCLA all the way to Columbia. Did you ever notice that when they were taking over those college campuses, they all had brand new tents? I noticed. And guess what? Other people noticed too. And then when you look at the students themselves, they were complaining about wanting supplies like DoorDash. And anyone who knows anything about DoorDash knows that DoorDash ain't cheap. Makes you wonder who's paying for all of that, doesn't it? Especially when you look at those damn scruffy ragamuffins and look like none of them probably ever held a 9-to-5 job in their lives. And let's not pretend the mess that's going on right now in Ukraine never would have started if it wasn't for these NGOs paid for by ActBlue by way of USAID didn't start all that mess in Ukraine. That Maidan so-called revolution, yeah, revolution my ass. Yeah, a top-down revolution, bought and paid for by U.S. taxpayer funds. And wait for it, you ready? After those people hijacked that government, they were basically paying for everything. Yeah, you can look it up. If you were a civil servant anywhere in Kiev, your paycheck didn't come from the Ukrainian government. It came from the U.S. government. No joke. And of course, if you've been paying attention to events, they weren't just paying for civil servants, and USAID wasn't paying for civil servants. They're also paying for bullshit like celebrities, and yeah, they do have a few celebrities in Ukraine, going to damn fashion week in goddamn Paris. And you say, what? Yeah. And then you're surprised that old Mr. Green T-shirt Zelensky himself, when old Trump complained about what $300 billion went down the hole in Ukraine, and Zelensky's tried to say that he only got 70-something billion. Remember that story? Yeah. Who do you think is telling the truth? Trump, who is, let's not pretend, the guy, he's got money. He don't need taxpayer funds. Or Zelensky, the guy who is always a few brain cells short of a full load and is constantly $1 short. You know what? I'm thinking the fella who's always broke all the time, he probably knows that he got a lot more than 70 billion. So what happens now? Well, now that all that money has gone bye-bye, and USAID and ActBlue is winding down because they got no more public funding. Let's see what happens next. Because anyone who's familiar with the phrase astroturfing is beginning to notice now that everything that had been happening, going as far back as Obama and probably going even a little bit further back as George W. Remember the Battle of Seattle? I remember that. Of course, that happened actually under Bill Clinton, but whatever. Where Antifa goons showed up at the World Trade Organization conference and tried to trash it. Yeah. And all those clowns were all wearing black bloc. Who do you think paid for those people's plane tickets to come to Seattle? Think about it. Yeah. Apparently this whole damn USAID backslash ActBlue scam has been going on for quite a while. And now that the money's drying up, all these leftist and liberal organizations are just going bye-bye. Yeah, that's the meaning of astroturfing. Basically creating something out of thin air. And basically like a Hollywood studio backdrop, it looks real, but it's hollow. It's fake. I mean, how many have you ever gone to Universal Studios tour? And if you ever go to the so-called New York Street set, yeah, it looks like actual New York Street with sidewalks and lampposts and actual buildings, but it's all fake. I mean, if you ever got off the tram and went up to one of the doors and opened it up, there's nothing inside. And as you saw in Dr. Turley's video, that's basically what leftist politics has been in the United States, at least since Obama. AstroTurf. All fake. All hollow. A great facade. All kinds of people with protest signs and all kinds of websites promoting Obama, Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, and of course cackling Harris. And yet it wasn't real. It was all fantasy. Just a quick reminder to all of you that my short story, The White Cat, is still available on Substack. The links are down below in the description. Join Margot Thompson, a beautiful stage actress and recent widow who finds salvation in the form of a white cat during a night of terror. And while you're looking up my oddball thriller, my book series, Glitch, is still available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other bookstores. The links are down below in the description. Join Ike and Sandra, a reluctant jewel thief and a kidnapped teen model who are on the run from the law across the American Southwest. And now the money is gone and the fairy tale is going away. And the only thing left is people waiting for the fat lady to sing. And you say, huh? Yeah, the DNC itself. Anyone who's been paying attention to what's been going on there knows that they're circling the drain right now. Makes you wonder if they're going to go bye-bye too. Just have to wait and see, huh? Well, that's all I got to say about ActBlue and their shenanigans. And that's my opinion.